What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, and I have another emergency update to share with you guys. Right now, it is 21:09 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from the Middle East. So, just in the last 2 hours, the U.S. has been transmitting nuclear codes non-stop for some reason. Why that is, I have no idea. But you can tune into the 24/7 live stream on my YouTube channel to listen to these nuclear codes, but they've been transmitting non-stop for the last 2 hours. And in general, today, there's been a lot of them transmitted. We had 4 nuclear war command and control planes in the air today, which is a lot. We also had a presidential doomsday plane fly to Offutt Air Base. So potentially Lloyd Austin or some kind of VIP was on that plane. And what you're looking at here are the flight paths of 2 of those nuclear war command and control planes. You can see that they were very active this evening. They were out in the Atlantic and the Gulf and the Pacific communicating with our submerged nuclear-armed submarines. So something has spooked our nuclear forces this evening. I don't know what it is exactly, but something is definitely concerning them, that's for sure. And we have this NOTAM, that's a notice to airmen. It's a warning for pilots that was posted today about some kind of rocket firing and gun firing, or rocket launches and gun firing in Iran. So here you can see it says gun firing will take place, and they give the dates of November the 12th until November the 13th. And then they have another one for rocket launches, and that's going to be November the 18th until November the 20th. So that's pretty unusual, and this is the same thing that happened right before Iran launched their last missile strike and the missile strike before. They always put out these NOTAMs ahead of time. So potentially Iran is getting ready to strike Israel soon, and Israel has reportedly informed the United States that a ground offensive into Lebanon is imminent. And Russia's Federal Air Transport Agency, Rosaviatsia, banned all flights from Russia to Israel at night for the next month. Wow, that is insane. So no Russian planes going to Israel at night for the next month. That is a huge red flag that something big is about to go down. And the Iranian President Pezeshkian will arrive in Moscow by the end of the year to sign a strategic partnership agreement between Russia and Iran. A partnership agreement between Russia and Iran will be signed in the near future, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said today. The agreement will confirm the parties' desire for closer cooperation in the field of defense and interaction in the interests of regional and global peace and security, Lavrov noted. So this is very concerning, guys. Okay, Russia signing strategic partnership agreements with North Korea and Iran. Okay, this is very, very concerning, and it's also biblical. Okay, the Bible says in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 38 and 39, that Russia is going to form an alliance with Iran and various Muslim countries in the Middle East, and they're going to try to attack Israel in a surprise attack halfway through the tribulation period after a peace treaty is signed, which is known as the Covenant with Many. So this is very, very concerning. And Israel sent an ultimatum to Hezbollah. If Hezbollah rejects it, Israel is prepared to implement robust operational plans in Lebanon. Such plans could include ground maneuvers in additional areas of Lebanon. This was reported by the Israel Hayom. And Israel's 36th Division has begun deepening the ground operation towards new areas in southern Lebanon, according to Israeli Broadcasting Corporation. And the Israeli army has begun the second phase of its ground operations in Lebanon, according to Mariv. The goal of the second phase of the Israeli army's operation in Lebanon is to eliminate Hezbollah's missile capabilities. And Trump and America must be destroyed, according to Hossein Sharatmadari, advisor to Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran and editor of the Kihan newspaper. Okay, so one of Ayatollah Khamenei's, the leader of Iran, his top advisor said Trump and America must be destroyed. And the Iranian Air Force commander visited China to look at some J-10CE fighter jets. Apparently, Iran is interested in purchasing them. And Israel has begun the construction of large-scale defense lines along the border with Syria. That's pretty concerning, and that's also biblical. Okay, that's another invasion route for Russia and Iran to attack Israel from, is Syria. And we know that Russia just recently erected a new observation post on the border of Israel in the Golan Heights. And the Houthis said today that they targeted the U.S. aircraft carrier Abraham Lincoln with several cruise missiles and drones, and targeted 2 U.S. destroyers in the Red Sea using ballistic missiles and drones. So very concerning there. And the United Kingdom might send troops to Ukraine if U.S. President-elect Donald Trump reduces funding for Ukraine. Former Prime Minister Boris Johnson stated in an interview with GB News. Johnson proclaimed that supporting Ukraine is a worthwhile investment, insisting that Europe would otherwise face an inflated threat, particularly to Georgia and the Baltic states. He suggested that Ukraine's defeat would reverberate in the Pacific region, including the South China Sea. What I'm saying is, for people watching thinking, why are we supporting the Ukrainians? It's because otherwise our collective security will be really degraded by a resurgent Russia threatening all sorts of parts of Europe, and we will then have to pay to send British troops to help defend Ukraine, Johnson claimed. Wow. And according to Forbes, Taiwan may have provided Ukraine with up to 15 Hawk air defense batteries. If confirmed true, the batteries from Taiwan could account for up to a third of Ukraine's air defense forces. Wow. And France is going to supply Ukraine with 6 Mirage 2000 fighter jets. That's pretty insane because that's France's top-of-the-line fighter jet. And the new leader of NATO, Mark Rutte, said that missiles that Russia transfers to North Korea pose a serious threat to the mainland United States, Europe, the Indo-Pacific region, and the entire Euro-Atlantic region. And Germany's leading chancellor candidate appears to be very hawkish on the war in Ukraine, with elections coming in February. Friedrich Merz wants to give Ukraine Taurus missiles so they can conduct deep strikes on Russia. Friedrich Merz, Germany's main opposition leader and candidate for chancellor, has proposed issuing an ultimatum to Vladimir Putin using Taurus missiles. Merz expressed his belief that diplomatic negotiations with Russian leader Putin result only in further crimes by Russia. He pointed to Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban's so-called peace mission to Moscow, which was followed by Russia's bombing of Ukraine's largest children's hospital in Akhmedit. He accused Olaf Scholz of bearing personal responsibility for Ukraine being forced to fight Russia with one hand tied behind its back. This cannot continue. If Putin does not accept this, the next step should follow, and he must be told. If he does not stop bombing civilians in Ukraine within 24 hours, then Germany must send Taurus missiles to destroy the supply routes this regime is using to harm Ukraine's civilian population, Merz said. He urged not to fear Putin's nuclear threats, stating that fear is the mother of all cruelty. So he basically wants to threaten Russia and say, if you don't stop the strikes, we're going to target your territory with our Taurus missiles, and Ukraine is going to do it, and they're going to hit all the supply lines. And the former Russian president, Dmitry Medvedev, said in response that the war in Ukraine is reaching the most dangerous phase. Europe is led by nobodies with inflated self-esteem, which means the negative scenario will remain the most likely. And Russia has reportedly faced its deadliest day yet in Ukraine, with 1,950 Russian soldiers killed within the last 24 hours, marking a severe blow for Putin's forces. Ukrainian sources claim that Putin's two-day counteroffensive in Kursk ended in disaster, with Russian tanks destroyed and hundreds of troops dead. Footage from the offensive shows Russian armored vehicles detonating on landmines, with some wounded soldiers seen crawling from the wreckage. So this big counterattack that Russia has started in the Kursk region, this is their own territory that Ukraine now has taken over, and they still cannot kick out the Ukrainians. And numerous Ukrainian war journalists claim that Russia's winter offensive is set to begin any day now. Russian forces will allegedly go on the offensive in Sumy and the Zaporizhia region. And the president of Poland, Andrzej Duda, said in his Independence Day speech in Poland yesterday that all NATO states must increase their military spending to a minimum of 3%, an increase from the 2% spending target agreed on in 2014. Trump recently also said that 3% is needed for NATO. Poland will spend 4.7% next year on their defense. He also said Ukraine must protect itself from Russian imperialism and become part of the free world. Today, this imperialism is trying to destroy our neighbor, which we support with all our might and which we deeply believe will also be a part of the free world together with us. And the British Defense Intelligence Assessment seen by the Telegraph warns that Russia is likely to intensify drone attacks on Ukrainian positions using new launch sites near the border. And Donald Trump should be taken seriously when he talks about ending the war in Ukraine, said Finnish President Alexander Stubb to Bloomberg on November the 12th. We in Europe and the rest of the world need to understand that Donald Trump is very serious about getting a peace deal sooner rather than later, he said. And he said this after a phone call with Trump yesterday. So he actually spoke with Trump. And in western Ukraine, a new power outage schedule has started to manage electricity shortages due to Russian attacks on energy infrastructure. And the British Prime Minister is pushing Biden to release $20 billion in aid for Ukraine before Trump takes office. And a third Russian drone crashed in Moldova today. Moldovan law enforcement officials reported the crash of another drone on the country's territory. The drone was found on the outskirts of the village of Kasernita in the Kruleni district in central Moldova. And the Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu, he's the former Russian defense minister, told the Chinese foreign minister today that the most important task for Russia and China is to counter any attempt by the U.S. to contain their countries. Shoigu told Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi in Beijing that strong relations between Moscow and Beijing were a stabilizing influence on the world. I see the most important task as countering the policy of dual containment of Russia and China pursued by the U.S. and its satellites, Shoigu was quoted as saying by Russian state news agencies. Wang, China's top diplomat, said China and Russia need to stand together in an increasingly challenging and complex world. Wow. The more complex the international situation becomes and the more external challenges arrive, the more the two sides need to stand firm in solidarity and coordination to safeguard common interests, Wang said. China said Wang and Shoigu had a comprehensive and in-depth exchange of views on strategic security issues of common concern and enhanced strategic mutual trust. And North Korea ratified a strategic partnership agreement with Russia. The agreement was signed by North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un yesterday. The agreement stipulates that in the event of an armed attack on one party, The other is obligated to provide immediate military and other assistance. Both parties also agreed not to form agreements with third countries aimed against each other and to prevent the use of their territory for violations of each other's sovereignty. So this is huge news, guys. This is basically a military alliance, a military pact with North Korea that Russia just signed and North Korea just signed, meaning if we go to war with North Korea, then Russia is going to go to war with us. And Comcast is reportedly getting ready to sell MSNBC because of poor ratings after the election. And CNN is getting ready for massive layoffs due to a ratings collapse following the election. And President Trump has nominated former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee as the U.S. ambassador to Israel. Interesting choice there. I think he's going to be good considering that he's an evangelical Christian. And here we have 2 reconnaissance planes that were active this evening off the coast of San Diego. And what's interesting is they were looking to the south towards like Baja California. Very interesting. We had an E-3 Sentry and an RC-135 in this area, both performing figure 8 patterns here. This is very unusual. And we have the Korean Air Force doing some reconnaissance of the DMZ this evening. And this is a satellite photo of this massive defense line that Israel is building along the border with Syria. Look at that thing, guys. That trench is absolutely massive. And here we have some video footage of this dam in eastern Ukraine that was blown up either by Russia or Ukraine. Russia saying that Ukrainian forces blew it up to slow down the Russian advance. The Ukrainians are saying that the Russians did it. But this is in Kurakova in eastern Ukraine. Okay, massive dam here. As you can see, it was detonated. Okay, this was definitely a demolitions activity here. They had to use some pretty large demolitions to blow this thing up. And here we have some video footage that was posted by the Russian Ministry of Defense showing this warship sailing through the English Channel yesterday with nuclear-tipped anti-ship hypersonic missiles, the Zircon missiles. So let me just play this video for you. This is extremely concerning, guys.
Точковым прогнозируемым погодным прохождением северной части проливового марша определяется обширной частью антициклона с давлением в центре 1040 миллиметров.
This is Russian warship 456.
Новая воздушная цель, берег. 29, дистанция 300 километров. Цель следует курсом 220, скоростью 480 километров в час, высота 3500. Цель на запрос не отвечает.
Подразделению АТД боеготовность номер 1.
Not sure exactly what they're doing here. I guess they're training to fight off some kind of boarding attempt. And then here you can actually see them using some kind of a small AWACS plane. You see that plane right there? That's a radar plane that they were using. So they were doing some kind of drills here. They did not fire their Zircon hypersonic nuclear-tipped missiles, but they did do some kind of drill, okay, in the English Channel. That's between France and the UK, a huge sign to NATO, coming just a week after NATO sent an aircraft carrier into the Baltic Sea. Actually, the U.S. sent an aircraft carrier, and also Great Britain sent an aircraft carrier into the Baltic. So this could be a response to that. These are known as the carrier killer missiles. Okay, the Zircons were specifically made to take out NATO aircraft carriers. They fly like 10 times the speed of sound, and they have nuclear warheads. They're basically too fast to intercept, and because they have a small nuclear warhead, they can basically destroy an entire aircraft carrier. So this was obviously a sign to NATO after NATO sent carriers into the Baltic. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I do have the nuclear codes up on the 24/7 stream. I have my radio hooked into the live stream so you can listen to them. Something is going on tonight. I'm not sure what. I will be monitoring the situation, and I'll be in and out of the 24/7 stream this evening. But I will be back tomorrow with another update, and if anything happens tonight, I will be going live to update you guys live. But until the next time, take care, God bless, and don't forget the 3 Ps: prepare, practice, and persevere.